retention. Bonus up front.
All right, you're on.
Terrific. Thank you, Councilor Haynes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Joined this evening by Recording Secretary Katie Gargano. I'd ask her to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Here.
Counselor Susie,
Here.
Counselor Littman,
Here.
Counselor Haynes,
Here.
Counselor Bogart,
Here.
Counselor Felch,
Here.
Mayor Hosmer.
You know, often you are the contrarian. But you've been really good the past couple of meetings, so I'm going to say here. Okay? All right.
It's present versus here, what we're talking about.
Yes, yeah. We're also joined at council table this evening by Kirk Biotti, the Laconia City Manager, Glenn Smith, the Finance Director of the city. I'd like to let everyone know this evening that there will be a brief non-public at the end of our agenda. When we come back into session from the non-public, it will be to adjourn the city council meeting only. There'll be no new business taken up or old business. That will be followed by a finance committee meeting. So just to get everybody's schedule correct and get us on the record. Agenda item number 7 is acceptance of minutes from previous meetings. The regular meeting minutes of November 27th, 2023. Minutes were distributed to the City Council on December 7th. With no corrections or changes submitted to the clerk, the minutes will be accepted as distributed. I'm going to ask you for about 8. It'll be on 8, usually 8. Agenda item 8.
Oh. Okay.
Award Committee consists of 3 members, 1 representative each from the City Council, the Police Department, and the School Board. The committee meets once after all nominations have been received to choose the winner. This evening, I'd like to move to appoint Councilor Mark Haynes as the City Council's representative to the 2023 Deborah Bionars Award Committee. Doesn't look like it needs a vote. Looks like we'll just make the appointment.
There's a motion.
Is there a motion in there?
Yes, there's a motion to.
I'll make the motion then, Mr. Mayor.
Second,
I don't care, but it just says I move to appoint. So, second, so the motion, just reading what you gave me. So, motion made by
Counselor Susie.
Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Littman. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hands. That's opposed. I thought you were going to raise your hand and oppose. That 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion
I
passes.
really don't want to vote for myself.
Right now, agenda item number 9, citizens' comments for matters not on the agenda. If there's anyone here who would like to speak to matters not on the agenda, right now would be the appropriate time. I'd ask you to come on up and introduce yourself. Okay? Seeing no one. Moving on to agenda item 13, public hearings. Agenda item 13A, Resolution 2023-34, relative to approval of bonding for the purpose of funding capital improvement projects for transportation infrastructure improvements as recommended by the Finance Subcommittee. Notice of this public hearing was made available in the November 30th, 2023 edition of Laconia Daily Sun and posted on Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. I'd like to open the public hearing at 7:05 p.m. And if anyone would like to speak to this, now would be the appropriate time. Action on this item may be taken up under unfinished business later on this evening. For just joined us, we're on agenda item number 13A, if you're wondering where we're at. I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:05 p.m. on this matter. Moving on to agenda item number 13B, Resolution 2023-35, public hearing declaring city-owned property at tax map 442-15-7.1 described as the second and third floors of the downtown parking garage and any component of the first floor of the parking garage as deemed necessary by legal advice in order to convey the property as surplus property. Notice of this public hearing was made available in the November 30th, 2023 edition of Laconia Daily Sun, posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. Action on this item may be taken up under unfinished business this evening. I'd like to open the public hearing at 7:06 PM. If anyone here would like to speak to this matter, now would be the appropriate time. With no one stepping forward, I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:07 PM. I'm going to forego the mayor's report this evening and look to my fellow counselors here for council comments. Counselor Bogert.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to request that we take one of our ordinances and send it to the appropriate committee to have it reviewed, and that would be for performance zoning. I think it's been enacted for about 3 years now, and after 3 years, we should look at it and see if it's performed its duties as prescribed, and it gives us an opportunity to review it.
Okay, what would be the next steps if we're
If you
making a motion and looking for a second, Counselor Bogert?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion on sending our performance zoning to government operations and ordinances for potential update and review?
I guess just procedurally in adopting that, I think there's some steps that have to be done that are different than a usual ordinance based on the nature of that particular item.
If I may?
Yeah.
Okay. Not being familiar with what you're talking about, I think bringing it to the committee allows the committee to dive into it and take a look and see if there's other steps to bring it back to the next council meeting, let's say.
Is this in response to a problem that has been brought to our attention that it needs to be addressed? It seems sort of odd that we've just raised this,
No,
raised this out of the blue without any mention of it ahead of time, or I'm not familiar with any feedback from the public that this has been problematic. Are you,
Well, I've
are
had-
you, city manager?
There's a lot of questions on it, but we're not hearing a lot of negative feedback at this point. At least in my office. Whether anything's coming out of planning, I can't answer that.
Okay, all right, go right ahead, Counselor Bogert.
I was going to say that some of the folks were concerned that I've had conversations with about where it cuts out a lot of zoning issues, and it just gives the whole ball of wax to the planning board to take control of everything. And we've already had 2 lawsuits that came out of the performance zoning for mishaps and stuff.
Which 2
One was
lawsuits?
over at 51 Elm Street. That
Is there
was
an active lawsuit?
yes, because that was,
Not aware of
Can you tell me the parties on that and maybe get us up to
well,
speed
it was
on?
51, this was when Dean was in office, or the director, and what happened was the definitions of what was a retaining wall and what wasn't, and even though the planning board had made one decision, then a particular person decided to change that, and so he took it to court, and
And was that a problem with performance zoning? A definition?
That was to do with zoning, but I don't think it has anything to do with performance zoning.
Okay, and the second lawsuit?
no, I take it back, it was one lawsuit that I'm aware of, off the top of my head.
I guess I'm not against the committee looking at it, but I do think there's steps that have to be taken on that particular item. And I guess also, part of the work to get performance zoning is to take some of the inflexibility of zoning, if you will, and allow for projects that might be of greater benefit in particular areas to have some flexibility. Just want to be cautioned that we're not kneecapping that was a lot of work to putting it together. That's not to say it shouldn't be reviewed for, opportunities to improve it. I just want to be careful that, of my recollection, it went to the joint, it came out of the joint planning board, city council committee, and then it had to go to the planning board, and then I think it went through a different procedure than a normal ordinance, and I just think we should dust off what it had to do if, in fact, out of the review, there's any suggestions we want to bring forward.
How long has it, excuse me, how long has it been
Probably not.
in place?
Counselor Bounds was here, so,
He was a proponent.
yeah, he was. He certainly was. So prior to you getting here, but I would say
Not more than 4 years. I
no
don't-
more than 4.
Okay, the only thing I've heard, Mr. Mayor, is maybe some people have a question about definitions within the ordinance. That's the only thing I've heard.
Counselor Felch, go right ahead.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it going to committee and just having committee look at it, see if they think it needs to go any further, and have the steps needed brought to the committee so we can look at all the different steps that may be taken, but
And get together with the planning board.
yeah,
as part of it.
and then, well, if the committee thinks it needs to go any further, I would, in my mind, that it does, but I want to look at all the situations first.
Well, I think a danger of this, and I agree with what Councilor Lippman said earlier, that performance zoning by its nature is meant to afford the city planning department, planning board, some flexibility, looking at the overall good of a potential project, not necessarily check boxes that you either check every one or your project isn't going to get approved. And I think we've benefited from that. I think the danger is that if we have one lawsuit that I'm not familiar with, what that looks
I know
like.
which one I think he's referring to is between it was public, so it's not.
Right, sure.
Right.
It was between the former chair of the planning board.
And I
But-
don't think it had anything to do with performance zoning.
It didn't, because the project was already approved, right? And there were some issues about setbacks and whether the pillars that went into the ground were,
Right.
it was that. I think we should always look to improve our ordinances, particularly if people bring it to our attention that there's a problem with it. I think we should be careful, though, at there's been a single appeal, which I believe Mr. Brunette lost an appeal. And all of a sudden, we're going to open up something that seems to have worked pretty well. That's my concern about this.
Actually, he won.
Did he win?
Yes.
He did, okay. All right. So,
So 2 things to keep in mind regarding this is, one, is the performance zone supposed to be tied to a master planning process? So we should make sure that the master planning process, if in fact there's a change, that we're not changing the ordinance in sort of conflict with our master plan. And the master plan tends to pick specific areas in which this might be appropriate to use. It isn't something that's, every little, 1 acre lot is subject to performance zone.
Council Cheney, get you next.
I don't know that we need to change anything. I don't think it would hurt to review it with the state school particularly coming online, and that'll be a major performance zoning project, I suspect. I just like us, the planning board, and everybody else involved to be sure they're comfortable with what's in it now, and if there's some place where we need to fine tune it, I don't think we need to go in and cut it out or chop it up, but we might want to fine tune it, I guess is.
Keep in mind, hold on, keep in mind too that we're down an employee now. And so it might be, I'm not disagreeing with you, but as far as that level of expertise of a full-time employee who knows this and understands it, we don't have it right now.
Yep. understand.
I guess my recommendation was maybe send it, continue with the motion, but give government operations and ordinances 6 months to complete this review. So if somebody were to come on, they could get up to speed, and then you could sort of work on it in that respect. Would that be all right?
Thank you.
I think it needs 6 months to be reviewed, I really do.
It took an extraordinarily long, it was a very long time getting
Yes,
it
it
in.
was.
So, anyway, we've got a motion on the table, we have a second, we've had a discussion, and any further discussion, go right ahead,
Well,
Counselor Susie.
That would, you took the words out of my mouth. Let's put it there. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Thank you. Any further comments, Counselor Bogart?
Thank you.
Any further council comments, Counselor Felch?
Yes, I just want to put a shout out to the challenge teams, Pub Mania, and the children's auction. The Cafe Deja Vu challenge team, Pub Mania team, which I'm part of, was able to raise about $37,000. And the challenge / Pub Mania teams, I want to thank everybody involved, anybody that made a dollar donation all the way up to our big sponsors. They were able to raise $356,000. And then the children's auction, which I am part of and was there all week, there's a ton of people that work really hard to make this happen. Thank you to everybody, our sponsors, everybody. But our grand total for this year that's going to children's charities and families is $711,000.
Well done, Counselor. Well done. Counselor Susie?
From the Government Operations Committee, okay? We've been, I'm gonna pass this around to everybody here. One, two, three, four. Make
One
sure.
here and the rest go that way.
Wow. I'm gonna give one to
There's enough for.
our CEO,
Oh,
okay?
she needs one.
Yeah, so there should be enough to go that way. So we've been meeting regularly and had a number of meetings on a flag policy for the city of Laconia, okay? And working with the Human Relations Committee and other people, this is the recommendation that comes from the committee, not from the government operations, okay? And since I know some of the subjects on here are in some cases sensitive, or have had other discussions, we wanted to take the recommendation that comes from the Human Relations Committee and present it to the city council, looking for any feedback. If you gentlemen would please review this and give us any feedback before I'm not asking anybody to do this and we make a recommendation to pass something this evening. All I'm asking for is that here's what brought forward. The committee has worked with the team from Human Relations extensively, a number of different meetings, okay? And we'd like to get feedback from the city council if possible before we take a recommendation for passage or adding in the ordinance to what we have.
Okay.
I
So
thought that
we
was
could sort
just-
of take
that was
this and take it under advisement to a future meeting when we can come back.
Exactly.
Put it, make sure it's on the agenda,
On the agenda,
and
come
then
up
have a more formal discussion. Is that
formal
what you're hoping?
discussion. And if there's recommendations or anything else,
Work on them then.
the committee members are Councilor Felch, Councilor Cheney, myself as chairman, get back to us and we can bring these things all together,
Terrific.
okay?
Counselor
you very much.
Lippman, did you have something to say?
I'll talk
I
to Council Susie.
Okay.
I would hope so.
All right, thank you. Council comments?
I told you I wasn't feeling well.
Just quickly, Mayor, along with the children's auction, I think we met a lot of wonderful people at Christmas Village, and I just was overwhelmed by the number of volunteers they had and the work that they put in, and I just wish there was a way that we could thank all of them because it was a wonderful experience. Second of all, reading the fire chief's report, I know the department's busy, but I think, at least me, I would like to personally thank the chief. From his report, the department's been certainly engaged in the community as far as outreach to schools and everything else, so I commend the fire chief and the fire department for a wonderful job and to be involved in the community.
Thank you, Counselor Haynes. City Manager, is it possible for you to get the list of names of the people who put Christmas Village together? And I don't think we need the individual names of the firefighters or police officers, DPW workers, but we can certainly, I think a letter signed by the council, an appreciation for the work they've done. Maybe we can direct it to the chiefs of each department or the director of a department, but some of the individual civilians, if you will, who are not city employees, it would be nice. I know a number of people have passed on who are integral to that event, and we're looking for a new generation of people to come in. So I think we want to keep it going, and I hope that we do, showing some appreciation, maybe something from the city council and Lurs and myself would be.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any liaison reports at this point? Liaison reports, any more committee reports? No, seeing none. I'm going to move on to item number 19, which is citizens' requests to comment on current agenda items. There are citizens here, who would like to comment on any agendas, on items on tonight's agenda. Now would be the appropriate time. Step right up and say hello. Come on. No, I don't know if you are, but you came in late, so
Yes,
we'll
sorry.
give you, we'll be a little flexible.
I'm Daryl Dawson. I'm one of the board members for Celebrate Laconia and owner of Keller House in Weirs Beach. I first of all want to thank you guys for your support of the festival and the holiday walk and things like that. I just wanted to bring a concern up that we're seeing with the trees in the park. There is as you all know, a high drug population going on in the parks, and we even have our lights folks that go down and check the lights and things like that are afraid to send some of their employees down for fear of getting hurt or something like that. I don't know if there's anything that can be done to sort of curtail the amount of people in the parks, in the gazebo, especially during this time period. We've got a lot of people coming in the parks with kids, children, and there's crack smoking, and there's lots of different things going on in the gazebos. And if there's any way to clear out the parks during the day, have another location for them to go, something like that, I think it would be appreciated. My concern is that we've created something that is bringing families down to Laconia downtown, and not only people from Laconia, but from different areas. And they're coming down, and that's what they're seeing. And it's not a reputation I think we want as a community, to have people coming to the area and seeing that. I know that's it's a complicated issue, a complicated situation, but I just wanted to sort of petition the group here to see if there's any sort of solutions to sort of prevent that from happening. That's it. I don't know, but I just wanted to see if that's a possibility.
Thanks very much, Daryl, for all the work you've done over the past few years in regards to the holiday season here. Thank you very much. Certainly, maybe we can bring this to the attention of the police chief.
I have a meeting tomorrow scheduled with the Parks Director and the Police Chief to discuss stuff we've been seeing going on anyhow, both between Rotary Park and the area around City Hall, so I will add that to the list of discussion.
Thanks. And speaking of the Government Ordinances Committee, Government Operations and Ordinances, one thing we had talked about was taking a look at the ordinances surrounding when all of our public parks are open. And right now, it's 10 p.m. The park is open out here. And I'm wondering whether it's time to take a look at that and make a determination that parks are open from dusk until dawn until dusk, excuse me, and that if you're going to be there longer after dusk, it's by a permit, like they might do for the bandstand or things going on at the park. So I'm wondering if now's the time. It would allow the PD a little bit of what they need to enforce some of these people essentially spending the night in the parks.
I had a previous discussion with the police chief about it, and he pointed exactly that out, that the park is open to everybody until 10 PM.
Just as it's worse during the day. That's when it's the worst. At night, they have a place to go.
I'm sorry.
So, just a point to that, it's actually worse during the day, because that's open to them to go to. It's at night when they have a place to go, so that especially I think it's the Isaac, or is it Isaiah House, that they have a place to go. And it's not as bad at night as it is during the day.
Okay.
So just to keep that in mind.
Thank you very
Yep.
much. I'll make note of that, too.
Yes, thank you.
Counselor Susie, go ahead.
Just from experience, okay? I worked that beat day, night, year-round for many, many years, okay? And not just that, but we have PWT options with the police department. I think those are fantastic. Park the cruiser, walk the park. Come back, it's been told to me many times, just see the police officer walking around down there, or the beats or anything else like that, and I did it for a long, long time. That'll help deter them, especially during the day. I know it's tough because he's down 7 people, as we know, and everything else like that. But PWT during a regular shift, won't hurt.
Thank you. Just a request for our next meeting or early in January. There's been this issue, and someone brought it up to me just recently about the proposed historic overlay district. Was
Yeah,
the
I've got
committee
that
working
on
that?
my agenda to bring up to our committee to get that done.
Okay, so is it possible that we can work on that in the month of January?
Yes, I plan on having it done before that, but.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Okay, good, thanks, I just reminded. All right, moving on to item number 20, the city manager's report, and turn it over to Kirk Biotti.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The document you have with you today is your financial and operational trends. We do not have building value permits. We'll double up on that next month, and you'll get 2 months in a row, just for, we weren't able to get those numbers pulled together. The fire rescue call data, you'll see, is missing a bunch of spaces. They're having issues with a new computerized system that they have. They're trying to work through that issue right now. But the total calls are there, and you can see that they're staying pretty standard. The city relief continues to decrease. We're 4 months now, continue to go down. We've totaled out to it 45,000. We budgeted for 50,000, so we are keeping an eye on that, understanding that we're not probably going to get the reimbursements that we did in the last couple of years when there was some COVID money out there. Police activity continues to be busy, and we won't have to go through it tonight, but as you can see, we did talk about this a few months ago. They were breaking down a little bit differently over the averages, over the 10-year averages. Hopefully that was helping with some of the questions that we had. If not, please let us know, and we can make some more adjustments. Property tax collection and motor vehicle registration are pretty much right on where we would expect to be at this time, percentage-wise, as is overtime on the next page. As I say all the time, the more we're fully staffed, the better our overtime numbers look in general. Recreation facility use is there. It's being used. Obviously, in December, it's a little, the end of November and beginning of December, it gets busier because, not used as much because they're tied up with Christmas Village. Impact fees are shown. What's missing on here is in the transfer out. We do have money encumbered in there. We just don't have it, it hasn't been spent yet. It's been approved, but not spent yet. Reserve balances are, we've added to them, relatively unchanged, though, since last month. Next page, the code statistics are the same as I said about the building permits. We will double up on that next month, so we have a full picture of November and December. General fund and revenue expenses, again, are where we would expect to see them around this time. And the numbers for the fire department billing are in there for the EMS. The current one on page 24 or listed as page 5, either way you see it on there. We didn't get much, I gotta talk to the chief on some of his October numbers. I would expect to see a little bit more at this point. They've certainly had enough runs, but we're going through that at this time.
Yes, go right ahead.
The November number looks ridiculously low.
Yeah, no, that's why I have not followed up, and I just haven't had the opportunity to. I will figure out why that, we know, I don't, yeah, that is not correct, obviously. I will look into those. And the last page is now, it's that time of year again. So we have storm numbers are now in there as well. You can see that we did have a couple of events in November. The top number breaks down what we spend per storm, and then the bottom number is the total budgeted. So certainly we've had 3 times they've had to go out, only 1 significant storm, and we're doing okay financially at this point. Unless there's any questions, that's all I have for you this evening, and I'll look into those, because, yeah, I just didn't get a chance to do it yet.
And are we situated with the new ambulance rates? Do you know?
Yes, that's been taken care of, all the paperwork's been signed, and we should be all set.
Any questions of the city manager? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much. Moving on to our new business, item number 21A, which is a request from Laconia Airport Authority regarding an assignment of lease related to the purchase of a hangar and improvements located at 15 Aviation Drive in Guilford. Scott Johnson, trustee of the Scott R. Johnson and Virginia E. Johnson 2019 Revocable Trust, with an address of 129 Shore Drive in Guilford, is purchasing the hangar and improvements located at 15 Aviation Drive in Guilford, New Hampshire, from Paul J. Gaudet. A transfer like this, the city incurs no cost. The revenue generated by this lease agreement is payable to Laconia Airport Authority, is used for the airport's operation. This is a land lease. Staff recommendation at a May 18th, 2023 meeting of the Laconia Airport Authority authorize Dale Chan Eddy to sign the agreement and accompanying documents as vice chair of the authority. As Marv Everson has been kind to point out, the Laconia Airport Authority is seeking authorization from the Laconia City Council for Kirk Beatty to sign the agreement as manager of the city. I also mentioned that I'm related to one of the parties involved, but I have no financial interest in any of this. So, right now, I'm looking for a motion to move to authorize City Manager Kirk Beatty to sign the agreement described above as requested. So made by Councilor Felch, seconded by Councilor Lippman. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes.
Okay. Do we have it?
Marv, do you need this signed right now?
No,
Is it not here?
no, well,
No, it's not there.
no, I'll pick it up in the morning from Katie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 22 under unfinished business. Request from the Laconia, under 22 under unfinished business, 22A, relative to the approval of bonding for the purpose of funding capital improvement projects for transportation infrastructure improvements as recommended by the Finance Subcommittee. I'll look to either Glenn or Kirk or Henry if you'd like to walk us through this just a little bit, or not. Go right ahead.
Yep, no, this was in addition to, well, we've worked through the process and approved bonding for a fire engine, 2 ambulances, and also sanitary sewer upgrades. During work with the Finance Subcommittee, there was discussion to add an increase of $2,083,000 to the bond to make it a $7 million total. The intent of that increased money will be for transportation infrastructure, so we'll put that to whatever that looks like within our transportation infrastructure upgrades, roads, bridges, wherever it's needed to go. We'll work on those specifics later. If this is approved, this would go back to the Finance Subcommittee for their final approval of the rates and maturities and all those details that go along with that, and it would be included as one package as a bond for all that was included.
And just if I could. When we say roads, we're not talking about just a hot top kind of thing. We're talking about road construction or bridges and more meaningful, expensive kind of construction.
Oh, okay. All right, so it's a series of 3 motions. Right now, the first is to move to waive a reading of Resolution 2023-34 and read it by title only. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Susie. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Next, looking for a motion to move a second reading of Resolution 2023-24 relative to approval of bonding for the purpose of funding capital improvement projects for transportation infrastructure improvements as recommended by the Finance Committee. So made by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. And finally, on this matter, looking for a motion to move to approve Resolution 2023-34 relative to approval of bonding for the purpose of funding capital improvement projects for transportation infrastructure improvements as recommended by the Finance Subcommittee. Motion made by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Moving on to item number 22B, declaring city-owned property at tax map 44/15/7.1, described as the second and third floor of the downtown parking garage and any component of the first floor of the parking garage as deemed necessary by legal advice in order to convey the property as surplus property. As we know and has been discussed, a written offer has been submitted to purchase the second and third stories of the downtown parking garage currently owned by the city of Laconia. The prospective buyer has proposed a negotiable amount as the purchase price for the property to arrive at a fair, mutually beneficial agreement to both parties. In accordance with City Code Sections 183-7 and 183-8, a resolution as presented requests that the City Council determine the city-owned property described as the second and third stories of the downtown parking garage be declared surplus as a first step in the process. At the November 27, 2023 City Council meeting, a motion was approved to schedule a public hearing that was laid earlier this evening on this matter. No one testified in regards to it. Please note that a 2/3 vote of the City Council is required for any vote relative to this matter. So in front of us, we have a series of 3 motions. Each one will have an opportunity for discussion if you so wish once the motion is made and seconded. First motion is to move to waive a reading of Resolution 2023-35 in its entirety and to read by title only. First made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Felch. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Next, looking for a motion to move a second reading of Resolution 2023-35 relative to declaring the city-owned property, tax map 442/15/7.1, described as the second and third floors of the downtown parking garage, and any component of the first floor of the parking garage as deemed necessary by legal advice in order to convey property as surplus property. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Susie. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Finally, on this matter, I'm looking for a motion to move to approve Resolution 2023-35 relative to declaring the city-owned property at tax map 442/15/7.1, described as the second and third floors of the downtown parking garage, and any component of the first floor of the parking garage as deemed necessary by legal advice in order to convey the property as surplus property, to authorize the city manager to enter into negotiations with the prospective purchaser of the property and to sign all related documents related to this matter. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion on this? I think we should just make clear this is a negotiation to purchase, the terms of which will be conveyed to the City Council. Will we be voting on the terms before the deal closes?
Yes, I
Okay.
believe that is correct.
Just want to make that clear. So you'll be negotiating, bringing back the terms
Correct.
for our vote, either in approval or not approving, I don't know. But
Yes.
we'll have another chance to vote
Yep.
on this. Terrific. Any further discussion on this matter? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Item number 22C. Proposal to increase transfer fees due to increase in disposal costs. Kirk?
So we've been working through, now we've had it on a couple of agenda items, trying to increase the transfer station fees. We've worked through, each time it's been tabled, we've gone back and reworked numbers, and the more we got into it, I think the deeper I got into it with I think the more difficult it was gonna be for me to convey what we were trying to do. We went back last year when we were trying to do the same issue with sanitary sewer fund, and it was at subcommittee, we worked through it smoother and a little easier, and we're able to actually, as opposed to me bringing something forward and it getting positive or negative and then going back and forth, we were able to go through it. The more I get into it on this, I thought that this was a perfect opportunity to do that again, if you so choose.
Where does that leave us right now? What would you,
Tables.
what's it, we're gonna table this and take it off the table at some point?
I think you're looking to send it to committee, right?
You want to go to committee?
It would be nice if it would go to, if you want to do it that way, so we can get through all of the details, I think, a little more expediently.
Okay. Public Works. Going to assign this matter to the Public Works Committee. Okay. That's all we have to do, and then we have to vote, do we?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay. All right, I've made a mess there.
You have to sing a song or something like that.
There'll be no singing. All right, this concludes our agenda this evening. I see Mr. Roberts in the back. Was there something that you were looking to address this evening that maybe we? Well, we've sort of gone past the public input portion, but I realize you made an effort here to come down here, and I just wanted to say hello. Fair enough. It's a guest of ours, former Speaker of the New Hampshire House, George Roberts. Welcome. It's nice to have you here.
Decade. I haven't seen him in a decade.
Doesn't look any older.
Oh, yeah, he does. Yeah, he does.
All right, so this, right now, we're gonna be going into non-public session. Under RSA 91 A:3, Roman 2, consideration of the acquisition, sale, or lease of real or personal property which, if discussed in public, would likely benefit a party or parties whose interests are adverse to those of the general community. It's okay if you, you can stay for the first few minutes if that's all right, and you tell us what you've dropped off. So, we need a motion, and then, make the motion to go into non-public. Counselor Haynes, seconded by Counselor Bogert. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, is this a roll call?
Call. Counselor Cheney?
Yes?
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Littman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Bogert?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
We are now in non-public session?
Not quite yet.
No, until we turn this off, right?